My name is Dr. Monique A. Lynch, your lecturer today on mental health. Now, when we hear mental health, oftentimes we think of madman in the street, madman in the street eating out of the garbage bin, or we think of persons who are in Bellevue Hospital, or we think of persons who are just negative, persons who are seeking attention, persons who are just weird. And while that might be some of the signs and symptoms, that does not describe mental illness. And when we talk about mental health and mental illness, those two terms are increasingly being used as if they mean the same thing, but they do not. So everyone has a mental health, just like how everyone has a physical health. All right, so in the course of your lifespan, not all persons will experience a mental illness, but everyone will struggle or have a challenge with their mental well-being, which is your mental health, just like we have challenges with our physical well-being, like the common cold, the flu, a headache from time to time. We will all experience a moment when we are not so okay mentally. So what is mental health? Now, when we talk about mental health, we are talking about our mental well-being, our emotions, our thoughts, the way that we think, our feelings, our ability to solve problems and to overcome difficulties, our social connections with each other, and our understanding of the world around us. And when we talk about mental illness, we're talking about a clinically diagnosable disorder, meaning you have to be diagnosed by a physician or a health professional, and it is basically a disorder affecting the way people think, feel, behave, or interact with other persons. Now, to be clinically diagnosed with a mental disorder, an individual's day-to-day competence must be significantly impaired. Now, what are some of the general signs and symptoms of a mental disorder? 1, feeling hopeless. 2, having consistently low energy. 3, using mood-altering substances, including alcohol, nicotine, which is basically in cigarettes, more frequently. Displaying negative emotion. Being confused. Being unable to complete tasks, such as getting to work, cooking a meal, getting dressed. Having persistent thoughts or memories that reappear regularly, thinking of causing physical harm to themselves or others, hearing voices, or experiencing delusion. Now, there are nearly 300 mental disorders listed in the DSM-5. The DSM-5 is basically a big book of all the disorders that we as mental health professionals or health professionals use to be a guideline. Some of the main groups of these mental disorders are 1, the mood disorders, and that's usually like depression or bipolar. 2, anxiety disorders, and those are like phobias, when you're scared of something, like persons are scared of heights, snakes, closed spaces, etc. You have the general anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, and the next group is personality disorder, and that includes like borderline, narcissistic, multiple disorders. The next main group is psychotic disorder, which everyone should know. It's schizophrenia, schizoaffective. Now, many persons or many of the madmen on the streets usually are diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is one of the top disorders here in Jamaica. Another main group is eating disorders. The other main group, trauma-related disorder. And one of the final ones, the substance misuse disorders. What are some of the myths in mental health or mental illness? And these are questions that I might have received over the years. And the number one question is, or the number one myth is, mental illnesses are not real illness. Now, the words we use to describe mental illnesses have changed greatly over time. What has not changed is the fact that mental illnesses are not the regular ups and downs of life. Mental illnesses create distress that don't go away on their own and are real health problems with effective treatment. When someone breaks their arm, we wouldn't expect them to just get over it, nor would we blame them if they needed a cast or a sling or something else to help in their daily life while they recover. Why do we do that with mental health or mental illnesses? All right, number 2, mental illness is contagious. No, it is not. Number 3, mental illnesses don't or will never affect me. Now, mental health issues and illnesses are actually very, very common. In 2018, suicide has been found to be the second leading cause of death among 15 to 29 years old in Jamaica. Hemmings in 2017 made a bold statement that at least 3 to 4 out of every 10 Jamaicans will have some form of psychiatric or mental disorder, and that within the next 10 to 15 years, mental illness in Jamaica is going to double or triple. There has also been a spike increase in murder-suicide rates in which the perpetrators exhibited serious mental health issues, and for some, they were diagnosed with mental illnesses before committing the crime. Yes. Number 4, mental illnesses are just an excuse for poor behavior. While it is true that some people who experience mental illnesses may act in ways that are unexpected or seem strange to others, we need to remember that it is the illness and not the persons that is behind these behaviors. Trust me, no one chooses to experience a mental illness. People who experience a change in their behavior due to a mental illness may feel extremely embarrassed or extremely ashamed around others. And it's also true that people with a history of mental illness are like anyone else. They make poor choices. They do something unexpected for reasons unrelated to their symptoms. They're just like me and you. In fact, it could be me or you. All right, another myth: children don't experience mental health problems. Even very young children may show early signs of mental health concerns. These mental health problems are often clinically diagnosable and can be a product of the interaction of biological, psychological, or social factors. Half of all mental health disorders show signs before a person turns 14 years old, and 3/4 of mental health disorders begin before age 24. Another myth: bad parenting causes mental illness. No one factor can cause mental illness. Mental illnesses are complicated conditions that arise from a combination of genetics, biological and environmental and life experiences. Family members and loved ones do have a big role to play in support and recovery. People don't recover from mental illnesses. And I know that seems to be a popular non-fact going around because of how we see in Jamaica persons with mental illness, how they live and how they operate. And most times when people go to Bellevue, they never come back. But people can and do recover from mental illnesses. Today, there are many different kinds of treatments and service and supports that can help. No one should expect to feel unwell forever. And the fact is, people who experience mental illnesses can and do lead productive and engaged lives. They work, they volunteer, they contribute their unique skills and abilities to their communities. And even when people experience mental illnesses that last for a long time, they can learn how to manage their symptoms so that they can get back to their goals. If someone continues to experience many challenges, it may be a sign that different approaches or supports are needed. And the final myth is that people who experience mental illnesses cannot work. Now, whether you realize it or not, workplaces are filled with people who experience mental illnesses, and most times they're undiagnosed. Now, mental illnesses doesn't mean that the person is no longer capable of working. However, some people benefit from changes at work to support their goals, but many people work with few supports from their employers. Now, most people who experience serious mental illnesses may want to work, but face systematic barriers to finding and keeping meaningful employment. And this may include their current treatment in terms of the side effects that might make them unable to keep a job. Now, mental illness can occur when the brain is not working well or is working in the wrong way. And as you would have seen, that the causes of mental illnesses are very complicated. However, when the brain is not working properly, one or more of its 6 functions will be disrupted. And what are these 6 functions? Thinking, how we think; perception, how we perceive our thoughts; emotions, how we feel; signaling, how we portray it to others; physical, and all of these play out in how we behave. The final one is our behavior. Now, how can we identify, or what do we use to identify if someone's behavior might be more abnormal than normal? So there are 4 D's of abnormality that assist in diagnosing a mental disorder. And they are: number 1, deviant. Does this person's behavior deviate from our societal norm? So societal norms are things that are accepted by the public or accepted by society. For example, we all know that when we are going outside of our house, we ought to put on clothes. That would be a societal norm. So if someone is going outside of their house and they are naked, that might be a sign of abnormal behavior. 2, dysfunction. The symptoms that this person is displaying, is it significant enough to interfere with their daily tasks? 3, distress. How is this person coping? And 4, danger. Is this individual a danger to self or a danger to others? The 4 Ds, deviance, dysfunction, distress, and danger, are the 4 Ds that we use to assist in diagnosing a mental illness. Now, when we think about COVID and we think of mental health, the truth is that we have all been exposed to and or displaced by the effects of this crisis. And we can definitely agree that we are all in some way or another susceptible to experiencing mental health problems, especially households living in poverty, people who live with their abusers, people whose livelihood has been affected, minority groups, and people with chronic health conditions such as diabetes, cancer, hypertension, etc. Now, these determinants interrelate with each other dynamically and can threaten an individual's mental health state. Now, what are some of the tools to thrive, especially during this pandemic? Number 1, get connected. This is where you build strong and positive relationship with your circle of either friends, loved ones, or a mixture. Persons that can provide you with needed support and acceptance in good and bad times. Establishing other important connections, whether by volunteering or joining a faith or spiritual community, is key to surviving and thriving. All right, number 2, make every day meaningful. Do something that gives you a sense of accomplishment and purpose every day. Set realistic goals to help you look forward to the future with meaning. I feel like many of the times, especially in this COVID period, a lot of persons have been facing, disappointments because they have these big goals and they didn't achieve them. I feel that sometimes we need to take these big goals, break them down into smaller goals, and then we try to achieve these smaller goals, and these smaller goals lead to a bigger goal. For example, you want to buy a car. First, you need to get a learner's. The second step is to do your driving exam. Then the third step, to save your deposit, or if you're saving for the full car, start researching on banks and interest rates and the whole works, insurance, the different insurance packages, what you can afford, see what your monthly payment would be like, do a budget to see if you can afford it. There are so many things that come under that one big goal of getting a car. But so many times we are focused on getting the car that we're not really taking the time to look at the other small goals that you can attempt. And these small goals will all lead to the bigger one. All right, number 3, learn from experience. Think of how you have coped with hardship in the past. Consider the skills and the strategies that helped you through difficult times. And you might even write about past experience in a journal like myself to help me identify positive and negative behavior patterns, and then use this to guide your future behavior. Because the truth is, these are things that you can work on. While this pandemic has created a lot of uncertainties and a lot of things that are out of your control, this is something that you can do for you. You have control over this. You have control over you. So let's make this doable. Number 4, remain hopeful. You can't change the past, but you can look towards the future by accepting and even anticipating change. Makes it easier for us to adapt and view new challenges with less anxiety. Live in the now. We have now. Yes, you may have lost things, you may have lost opportunities. You have now. What is it that you can do now? Number 5, take care of yourself. See, self-care is very important. It's not only an important tool to thrive, but it's a very important part of your mental health. Tend to your own needs and your feelings. Get to know yourself. Know what your limits are, what you will accept, what you will do and what you won't do. Participate in activities and hobbies that you enjoy. Include exercise in your daily routine. I hate running, but I walk. So if walking is good for you, 15 to 30 minutes a day will not kill you. Get plenty of sleep. I feel like a hypocrite, but at the end of the day, it's important to know your body and know what your body needs. Sleep more if you can. Eat a healthy diet. And I know this has been maybe a lot of persons struggle with this area because we tend to just want to go big. So we want to go on a diet and we go, no rice, no flour, no sugar, no this, no this, no this. And it overwhelms you. You do it for a week or two and then you cave in. So for me, I would advise you, take things into smaller proportion. Try removing sugar first. You master that, you get that one done, then you move to the next thing. So create these smaller habits that lead to bigger habits or bigger life changes. Practice stress management and relaxation techniques such as meditation, deep breathing, prayer, worship. Whatever works for you, take care of yourself. Because if you go, everything else goes. So you have to learn to put your self-care as a priority. Number 6, be proactive. Do not ignore your problems. We're never telling you to ignore your problems. Instead, figure out what needs to be done. Make a plan and take action. And although it can take time to recover from a major setback, a traumatic event or a loss, know that your situation can improve if you work at it. Now, what are some of the supports or resources that are out there for persons if you're experiencing any mental health challenges? You have the Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network. You can look them up on Facebook and IG. They have a support group on first and third Saturdays on Zoom. You have the Think Mental Health JA support group. They meet every second and fourth Saturday on Google Meet. You have the Jamaican Psychological Society, non-profit organization. They also have a support group that meets on Sundays. You have Rise Life Management Services, Dope Empowerment, the Caribbean Institute of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, Bellevue Hospital support groups. I think they meet on first and third Saturdays as well. The Ministry of Health and Wellness Mental Health Unit, Jamaicans for Suicide Prevention, Choose Life International. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has just came out or established a helpline for persons with mental health issues, and the number is 1-888-NEW-LIFE or 1-888-639-5433. It is toll free, providing 24/7 hours assistance to persons with mental health issues seeking support. You have the Mental Health Support JA, and you have the Chosen Stars Foundation. Now, what are some tips that I will give to how can we promote good mental health? Talk about your feelings. Avoid alcohol or drugs. Stay in touch with people that matter. Get help or advice when you need it. Take time for you. Do things that you are good at. Accept yourself. Be in surroundings that are safe and secure. Learn how to deal with stress. Quiet your mind. Set realistic goals. Give of your time to volunteer and take care of your body. So thank you so much for joining today. If you have any questions on mental health or mental illness, I can be reached at chosenempress@gmail.com. You can send your questions. You can leave them in the comment section below. I'm sure my information will also be posted in the description box below. You can follow me on Chosen Empress on YouTube, Chosen Empress on IG. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you would have learned something today about mental health or mental illness. And remember, there is no real health without good